My view of the world is that of a good place rather than evil, and the notion of human presence and our impact or imposition on our environment runs throughout my work. In the series Rooftop, I address what some urban pioneers are doing to correct the human folly of ignoring the global consequences of non-renewable consumption. By exploring cities and documenting green roofs and rooftop gardens, I record the beauty and value of these additions to architecture and the urban landscape. These elevated landscapes represent the opportunity urban gardeners give nature to express itself unsullied and unadulterated. In a recent interview, Katherine Ware and I explored these concepts a bit further.
Hi, this is Katherine Ware.
And I'm Brad Temkin.
Coming to you from Portland, Oregon. So you've been a photographer of the landscape and the cultural landscape for about 30 years. I wanted to ask you about your new series of photographs, Rooftop.
Rooftop began when I was in the middle of printing and scanning my private places work. And as I was doing this, I heard a piece on NPR about rooftop gardens and green roofs here in Chicago.
Well, Chicago was a real global leader in the green roofs movement, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, Mayor Daley's won all kinds of awards for his pioneering green roofs, and the whole purpose of it was to green the city and beautify the city. It's really kind of interesting because these places most of them are corporate buildings and they become LEED certified. However, people aren't usually allowed up on the buildings, and they exist, but you just never see them. I think that people just haven't really been able to enjoy the roofs, except for the people in the offices above them, because there's just too much upkeep. It would be like having 1 million parks all over the city.
It's kind of a wretched irony that a lot of construction involves completely raising the existing landscape, and then we want to bring nature back, and so then we plant things. But at least it's a good impulse. As a landscape photographer, do you hold out much hope for what's out there in the world?
Well, I do. I think that, I think basically people are good, and that we recognize that we kind of screw things up. And by planting these green roofs, what we end up doing is we're trying to make the world a better place. And I think that eventually you're going to find all cities are going to have these, and what it's going to end up doing is kind of making up for all the space that we take up. So all these buildings that are being built and the concrete that's being poured is going to then have people living, and then the places of escape will probably be on top. And eventually I think that we'll probably see, or we're already seeing, a lot of gardening, for food, and vertical gardening for things like walls to kind of protect the walls that are built, and they look better. I mean, it's much nicer to kind of integrate landscape and architecture. It's just kind of a new urban trend that's happening, and I think eventually all cities are going to have this.
Yeah, some of your pictures, the juxtaposition between the plantings and the architecture is really striking, and it made me wonder, was it any sort of aesthetic challenge for you, because these gardens aren't really planted to be seen, so and you have to work with them visually and make a compelling picture.
One of the things that I love so much about the city of Chicago's architecture is that it has a great consideration for each of the buildings that are built next to it. It's unlike most cities in that it has that consideration, and I think that these gardens are built by landscape architects to have the similar consideration to what's behind them. So these things also become vistas, like landscapes.
So you see the green roofs as being a positive model for how human beings can interact with their environment?
Yeah, I do. As I was mentioning, about these being elevated landscapes, it's it's basically an investigation of the larger issue of integrating the landscape in architecture while supporting the argument of tending our own garden.
Just a box of rain or a ribbon for your hair. Such a long